Hello, good evening, London. Good afternoon, Houston, Texas. My name is Dr. Patrick Singh, and I'm a researcher. I help people research their greatness. I help people write about their greatness. I help people share their greatness with the world. This evening in London and this afternoon in Houston, Texas, I am pleased to present to you Deaunna Mitchell, who will be sharing her story with us on how Antonio Smith Jr. changed her life. She'll be sharing her story as a co-author of this new book about Antonio Smith and how Antonio changed her life. Hello, Deanna. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Basingi. I'm awesome. How are you doing?
Great and grateful. Great to see you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, could you tell us about your story? Who are you? What you do?
I own the Deamery Group, which is a PR firm located here in Texas. More about me: I'm a 35-year-old mother of a 3-year-old, the publicist for Antonio and everything the ATSJR companies. I'm also one of the trainers of the ATS Business University, and I enjoy everything that I do. I love it.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you.
Today we'll be talking about you mainly and how Antonio Smith changed your life. And very soon, hopefully, Antonio will be able to join us as well as we talk about it. Yes, yes. So we'll be able to talk about his story as well and how he changed your life. So, could you tell us how you got involved with Antonio?
So I met Antonio in high school. I was a sophomore. He was a junior at the time. And one of his best friends I had a crush on since like freshman year. So well, since like elementary school. So when I was in the hallway doing freshman orientation and everything, because again it was my sophomore year, my first time at the high school, I ran into Antonio and his best friend, and he walked up to me, say, and he introduced himself like, "Hi, I'm Antonio." I'm like, "Okay, hi, how are you?" And we ended up sharing a couple of classes together. How we reconnected: he used to have a record label called Paper Chasing Records, and
Mhm.
at the time, I was into music, trying to be a music artist, and I got on with his label, and during that time he was helping me with my vocals, training me. He even brought on some people to help me in regards to my writing as well as helping me with my vocals. And then from there, me being young, I was doing whatever I was doing. And after I had my son, i was
Yes.
looking I was looking at something that he had posted on Facebook, and I'm like, wait a minute. And it was something about him haven't worked since he was like 29. And I was like, after I had my son, this was after I finished maternity leave. So I was back at work. I was waking up every morning, not wanting to go to work with stomach knots in my stomach. I was going into the office. I was the only one in the office because it was a very small office. So it was just me, and I worked at an apartment complex. So it was just me in the office, and then I had and then the maintenance lady, she was outside, so it was just the two of us. So I'd wake up in the morning with knots in my stomach because this is not where I want to be. Um, I would go into the office. Sometimes I wouldn't even open the office. I would just sit at my desk and just cry for about the first 30 minutes when I'm supposed to be open. Then I would go home and cry myself to sleep because I didn't want to be there. And then at the time, my husband at the time was helping his mom take care of some things at the house. So I didn't always have my son with me. Now, mind you, I'm my first child. I'm back at work, and I don't have my newborn with me when I get home from work. So it was a really hard time for me. It's something
Well,
that it's something that I didn't share with anybody. And so I reached back out to Antonio at that time because after watching him for so long on Facebook, I'm like, okay, so there's something that he's doing. I want to do that.
yes. Yeah, just before we go on to that, there's a special guest who'd like to talk to you. Let me just introduce that guest to you. Uh,
Okay.
yes, he'd like to say something to you. Hello, Antonio.
Hey, what's happening? I have
Hey.
crashed a party. I'm a
Hello,
party
boss man.
crasher. Yes, I was working out. I was doing some push ups, getting my sexy right, and I figured I'd crash in.
And
Well,
then someone
welcome.
was talking about you, about high
Oh,
school.
you guys were talking about me.
Yes, about
Yes.
high school.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, high school days. Yes.
Yeah, he asked me how did I first meet you, and I told him about the first day during freshman orientation my sophomore year, and I kind of mentioned your best friend and me having a crush on him since freshman year. I mean, since
Yes.
elementary school. So
This is true. This is true.
so
This
the
is
day I
true.
met you, it was you, him, and I think his cousin, your other best friend. And you just straight walk. You walked up to me and said, "Hey, my name is Antonio." I was like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you." But my focus was somewhere else. But and what I didn't tell him was during high school, you always had a smile on your face.
That's
I
true.
never saw you without a smile on your face. And knowing your story now, sometimes I sit, I'm like, dude, how did he always have a smile on his face? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I had just got out the trash can, right? So why not smile? The trash can was completely over. I would spend freshman through senior year never going back to the trash can, and of course I'm grown, and now I help people get out the trash can. I had no other reason but to smile. There was no more sleeping homeless outside with no electricity and no running water.
Well, and the interesting thing as I read the Anne's story is that she says that the first day she met you, you hit her with an energy that stayed with her for over 20 years. But I don't know what that kind of energy was. Could you?
Well, you know what, man? I'm just a charismatic, muscular guy or something like that. So I guess it must have been some winner energy. That's all I can say because I've been a winner a long time. I can assure you that I've been winning since I got myself out that trash can.
And
Yeah, but one of the other things she says about she rejected everything about you, Dion.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about winners. Winners repel losers, and the other was a loser for quite some time. Definitely.
I think that's what it was. I really do because where I was in my life, the level that I was on, Antonio, you were on a completely different level. So when your energy first hit me, at your confidence level, I think it scared me. Number one, because I'm like, wait a minute, you don't just walk up to people like that, and the time because we had class together and everything, and like I said, he was always smiling. He and everything about him I rejected. He was always happy. He always had a smile on his face. I'm like, no, there has to be something. There's no way you can come every day, wake up every day with a smile on your face. It's like everything about him was something that I wanted but rejected it because I didn't think I deserved it.
Mhm.
And now that I'm older and I understand that, it's like, oh, that's what that was.
And how did you feel then when you discovered his story, his past story, and all his struggles? How did you feel at that moment? I guess that moment was key in you as well being changed.
Till this day, it still hits me. Every time it's brought up, every time it's discussed, I kind of get quiet.
Hmm.
Quiet because I sit here and I look at him every day. Sit across the office from him every day. I see him every day. Again, he comes in with a smile on his face. And I'm sitting there like and I look at him like there's no way. There's no way. This person spent half his half his life in a dumpster. And then it hits me even more when I see his children and when I see my son, and I'm like, wait, because at this age he didn't have anywhere to stay. At this age he was literally supporting himself, and at this age I was playing with dolls and watching cartoons every Saturday morning. So every time it hits me, it's more of a it's a reality check for me, as in, Deanna, you didn't have it as bad as you thought that you did. Get yourself together. Deanna, things weren't as hard. There's always someone who has it worse than you. So stop. Whatever you have going on, it's not that bad. Pick up where you are
Hmm.
and keep moving. Because if he can get through that, you can get through anything.
Hmm. And as I read your story, I discovered that one of the things that you had in common was music. So how were those music years?
He was the same way as a CEO of a record label that he is as a CEO of another multi-million dollar business. It was work hard, play hard, but work even harder. And
Mhm.
he believed in me. He actually brought in people to help me with my vocals. He brought in people to help me with my writing, because even though I would consider myself a music artist, my writing wasn't all that great. And you can always use help with your vocals. I don't care what anybody says. You can always use help with your
Mhm.
vocals. And he literally, I think at the time I was the only female vocalist of the group. So it worked out because he was able to help me focus on my vocals and grow in that. And I'm forever grateful, because it also let me know that, hey, maybe that's not just where I want to be.
Wow. Yes. Antonio, how was it like coaching Deanna about with in terms of music? She says that you helped her write music and your belief in her was indescribable.
Yeah, it was easy for me because let's say I joined the army at 18, got out. I was 23 years old, sitting on $100,000 plus. So my
Mhm.
confidence is already through the roof. I mean, it was already through the roof before having $100,000 plus. Now I'm a successful CEO at 23 years old, and I have people around me believing me, and they're becoming successful. So it was super easy. It wasn't hard at all. And at that time, she was coachable. Now, she was only coachable in music.
Mhm.
If you tried to give her anything else, if you tried to tell her the world was a good place or something like that, she wasn't coachable. But it was relatively easy, and I'm grateful for her. And I ended up because of her, I signed a few more female artists, and we had a run. We had a 3-year run where we were number one for a long time.
Wow, that is amazing. So what happened to the music label? Does it continue? Does Deanna still sing? Or
Deanna still sings. It's probably in the shower somewhere,
Exactly.
and
would she be able to sing for us today?
you know what? I think that should happen. That would be very embarrassing enough that I would love that very much.
Oh, yes, you would.
And
Oh,
Tempest has already said this interview has gone left, so that would be very leftly for this interview. I would love it.
Oh.
we'll give it some time for her to get herself ready as we discuss another issue, but definitely
Long
by
as
the
you
end of
sing a
the
church
issue,
song, we won't boo you. Sing a church song, and you'll be okay.
Okay.
actually, you could sing together.
Oh,
Oh.
oh, I'm not the singer. Okay, although I can though. Watch this here. Watch this here. Me, 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 me,
Mm-mm.
me.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Kuna Matata means no worries for the rest of your days. It's a problem free philosophy. Kuna Matata.
Matata.
Yeah.
That's it right there. Boom.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is amazing.
Oh, this interview.
Oh, yes. Yes. So after the music years, there was a very, very big gap where you lost contact with each other, not until 2015. So what happened in between, Deanna?
I
You
um
couldn't sing together anymore, like now.
I I again me but again his Antonio's belief in his team is so strong,
Hmm.
where it's easy when you don't believe in yourself and your self-esteem level is so low, where you're like, okay, I don't understand why his belief is so strong. You know what? I'm just gonna move over here. So I distanced myself on purpose. I There was a lot going on in my life personally, and I didn't believe I deserved what he was offering me. He was offering me my dream. And it's like, no, I can't. Like, in me, I couldn't do it. And so I distanced myself on purpose. Between then and 2015, I'd gotten married. I'd done a whole lot of other stuff. I lived my life, not realizing the life I lived was really not the life I wanted to live. And I reconnected with him in 2015 because of my son. When I held my
Mhm.
son for the first time and I looked at him, I was like, okay, it's time for me to stop running from what I truly want. And where I'm at is not what I want. And I don't want my son to go through and live the same life I lived, to live a life of insecurity, to live a life of uncertainty, to live a life of not believing in himself, to live a life doing the things that he doesn't want to do. But what he's doing because he feels that that would make everyone else around him proud. I did not want him living that life. And I saw Antonio, I saw the life he was living. I'm like, dude is really free. Like, he's really free and he's doing exactly what he wants to do. And I reached out. I was like, hey, I'm ready. Because I'd reached out to him before here and there, like, hey, what are you doing? I'm curious. And he would talk to me about what he would be doing at the time. And I would, again, just shut it down. So I was like, okay, no, I can't do that. But this time I went to him, I said, I'm ready. I have my
Mhm.
son. I'm ready for this change because I can't keep doing this anymore. I can't. And
Well,
that's what happened in 2015. My son is what happened in 2015.
mhm, mhm. So, Antonio, looking at this, there was almost a gap of 3 or 4 years that Dion had left and now coming back. How easy was it for you to take her on again and start coaching her and helping her chase her dreams?
It was pretty easy because I didn't think about her in those 3 or 4 years. Right? I didn't. I mean, let's be real. I can only think about what's in my reality, and
Mhm,
I'm very winning focused. And in my reality, I was focused so much on winning. So when she came back, it was like she never left because I didn't have any ill feelings. I didn't. There was no problem with her being gone. She wasn't gone. She was just not in my reality. She was doing whatever she wanted to do. So it was very easy to to take her back, and anybody for that matter.
mhm.
I love when people go out and do whatever they're gonna do, but as far as me and my prosperity, I'm gonna keep winning.
Mhm, mhm. Because in her story, in this book, Antonia Smith Changed Our Lives, she writes that when Antonio took me back, he introduced me to the 5 phases of growth.
Mm.
Uh, what is this all about, 5 phases of growth?
Yeah, it's something
And
I
which phase
complete.
are we in now?
Yeah, it's something I completely made up. And when I again, so you catch me in 2005, and I'm 23 years old. I've got $100,000+ and a bunch of people around me, and of course, I mean, I've made some good investments with that. I did a lot of stuff. I've still got some stuff to show from it today. And I've tried to figure out, well, how the heck did I do it? How did I get out of a trash can to where I'm at now? So I just went backwards and started retracing my steps. The first thing I realized is I needed to change my perception of things. Things were not happening to me, they were happening for me. Then I realized that I had to love myself. And then after that, I had to forgive myself. And and I had to forgive everyone else too. Those are the three phases. You asked for five. There are five. The other two are a bit weird. So I'll save them for your interview. If you really want to get to them, just
Okay.
email Tempest at theatsjr.com, and then I'll give you the other two, and maybe we'll get into some coaching. But just know they are all about bending your reality. But you can't do anything. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no winning if you have grudges against people. Period, point blank. It's just not going to happen.
Yep.
Yes, Diana. How was it like going through the phases of growth, and how did Antonio change you in going as you went through those phases?
Going through the phases was extremely painful on an emotional and mental level. It was like pulling it was literally pulling scabs off of wounds, and it was painful because one of the things that he kept reminding me about my son. There are things that he would say, and I was like, wait a minute. But he was telling me, because of how you are, this is what you're doing to your son. He changed my life because he helped me change my perspective. Like you said, one of my perception and my perspective on everything. Because the first thing I had to realize was everything that was going on in my life was my fault. But at that
Mhm.
time, for me to admit that, it's like, what do you mean it's my fault? This is not my fault. How I grew up was not my fault. My thought process was not my fault. What I went through is not my fault. So it's not my fault. He said, okay. So your son is going to grow up like this, and it's going to be your fault. I'm like, whoa, time out. Wait a minute. And he changed my life because he actually helped me see me for the
Mhm.
first time. He actually helped me see who I was and who I was going to become if I did not change my perception, if I did not change who I was, if I needed some, he showed me what I needed to become a better person, therefore to become a better mother. Because ultimately, he used to tell me all the time, he said, there's no way you can say that you're doing this for your son. There's no way. Because if you were
Mm.
doing it for your son, you would be willing to change. And I'm like, I am doing this for my son. He's my life. And he's like, no, he's not. He said, you don't
Mhm.
care about your son. There's
Mm.
no way you care about your son. And after a while, after I sat there and I thought about it, I was like, he's right. Because if I truly cared about my son, I would make the decision to change the person that I am.
Mhm.
And that's how he changed my life. He tells all of us, until you can believe in yourself, ride my belief. I
Mhm.
didn't
Mhm.
believe I could be a good person. As much as I told myself I was a good person, I didn't believe I was a good person. As much as I told myself I was a good mother, I didn't believe I was a good mother. As much as I told myself I was a good child, I didn't believe I was a good child. And as much as I told myself I was a good wife at the time, I was not. I wasn't a good person. And he kept telling me, he said, you just have some character flaws that you need to work on. And he knew I didn't believe in that. He knew I didn't believe that I was a person that I told everybody else I was. And so he always told us, just ride my belief until you have enough belief for yourself. And that's exactly what I did. That's how he changed my life. I rode his belief because he had so much belief in me. I rode his belief until I started believing in myself.
Wow, that is very profound change. So you wouldn't be who you are today if you had not met Antonio.
Oh, no, not at all. I, I would not be, there's no way. There's no way I would be who I am today if it wasn't for him. There's no way.
Wow. Antonia, do you have anything to comment on this?
I think I
It's
think
too big.
Tempest just nailed it when she just commented he is so brutally all caps honest. I
Yes.
think that
Mhm.
sums it up. I
Yes.
changed Deanna's life by being brutally honest. Oh, I'm so ashamed.
No, don't be ashamed, because I lived a life of sugarcoating. I lived a life of everyone beating around the bush. The only person who ever told me anything straight up was my dad. And even then, I knew he was still being my dad, protecting me from certain things. But you never did that. You
No, I didn't have
from
time for that.
No, from day one it was, you suck.
Yep,
From
you
day
did.
one it was, no, that's dumb. Why would you do that?
Yep,
From
that's what I did.
from day one it was, you're not a horrible mother, but you're raising your son horribly.
Oh my God, yeah, I did
Wow,
say that.
wow.
I did say that. I did. I did.
And
I
it
did.
takes, for someone like me, the brutal honesty is what made me do my change. It was what made the change, because I was like, wait, everybody else is beating around the bush and telling me, "Oh, you're so nice and this and this and that." But this is the one person who is telling me differently, and I look in his face every single day, and he's telling me, "No, you're not a good person."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean?" That's so. He said, "No, if you really sit down and be honest with yourself, you're not a good person. And if you're not a good person, how do you think that's coming off on your son?" They
Hmm.
do as you say, not as you do. So what is he seeing you do?
No,
And
other
when
way around. They do as you
As you
do,
do, not as you
not as
say.
you
Thank
say.
you. So sorry. They do as you do, not as you say. So what are you showing your son? And that's when I started paying more attention to my son, how he acted, his attitude, how he responded to people. I'm like, wait, this little boy is mean. And when I looked, and he's a good kid, but my son he was mean. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, dang, is that me? Because the only way he could be that way is if I showed it to him. And Antonio's brutal honesty, and him just saying, "Hey, look, this is who you are, but you can be a better person because I know you can." That's what really pushed me. It That's what really pushed me. Him being brutally honest and just saying, "But you can do it." Him him being the person in my life to say, "You can be great. This is how you do it."
Yes. Thank you very much, Deanna, for sharing that story from your heart, a story of inspiration, a story of change, and important, a story of transformation. So, how do you use all that you've learned from Antonio, all that you've discovered about yourself, with other people? In other words,
Uh,
how do you help other people?
it's kind of weird because another thing that Antonio taught us is our strengths. And when speaking with people, he always tells me, use your empathy. Use your empathy. Grace said how he can feel people through the phone when he talks to them. And
Mhm.
when I talk to people, how they feel is how I respond to them. And what I've done is, from what Antonio has taught us, use that energy to help them. And with that, and actively listening. And with that, when I actively listen to people, when I feel how passionate they are about what they're doing, but I also feel their pain in it, I encourage them, because that's what he did with me. He encouraged me to keep going. Have the belief that it's going to work. Have the belief that you deserve it. Have the belief that you'll get what you want, and just keep
Mhm.
moving. And that's what I've actually done when I speak with people. I tell them all the time. There's a couple of people that come to mind. There's a young lady who started um, a baby food company, and in talking to her, we actually became friends. And she comes to me when I talk to her. We don't talk often, but when I do, she thanks me, because the one thing I used to tell her all the time is like, I know it gets rough, but keep moving.
Mhm.
I know this and I know that, but keep moving. And that's the one thing that Antonio taught me, is to keep moving and use your strengths. And when I talk to anybody, I always let them know, don't give up. Keep moving. There's another young lady who, her her name, she's named after a movie star, because her mother was it was her biggest fan. And she said, and it's funny because I want to go into movies. I said, well, do it. She's like, but how do I say no? I said, just do it. She said, but sometimes this happens and that happens. I say, but you keep moving forward. No
Mhm.
matter what happens, you keep moving forward. And again, where we teach our children, do what we do and not what we say. I
Mhm.
learned the keep moving forward by watching Antonio do it. No
Mhm.
matter what's going on, no matter what's in the office, no matter where he has to be, no matter what's going on, he keeps moving forward. No matter what mountain may come in the way, no matter what is going on, no matter if we're in the office or out of the office, he keeps moving forward. I don't care what it is, he keeps moving forward. And I learned that by watching him. And that's what, when I help others, that's the one thing that I always teach them, or I always push on them, is to keep moving forward. Because if you stop where you are, you'll never get anywhere. You're just going to stay where you are. But if you keep moving forward, there's no telling you what's going to happen. And that's what I share with anyone I come across. And from what I hear, that's the one thing that actually sticks with them, is to keep moving forward.
Wow, thank you very much. Antonio, I think you've written a book titled Keep Moving.
Yes, keep walking actually, but
Oh,
the
keep
point
Yeah.
is,
walking.
yeah, yeah, but the
Okay,
point
what
is
is
to
it
keep.
about? Can you give us a clue how that keep moving, keep walking comes into all this?
Sure, yeah. Keep Walking is a book that tells you to don't stop in your storms, keep walking out of them.
Mhm.
Basically, what I did was I realized that I had a story. I didn't realize it until someone kept telling me over and over and over again. And I basically jotted down the 13 steps that I use personally as a 6 year old kid all the way to an adult that got me out that trash can and into prosperity and abundance. And I wrote them down and I did the very best I could to weave my story into a self help book. I heard
Right.
one publisher call it a autobiographical self help book, and that's
Mhm.
basically what it was.
So how can we get keep walking book?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. Here is the greatest thing about what I have discovered when I
don't
do
say
men.
it's for free again.
No, it's not. Tempest won't let me say it's for free. Tempest won't let me say it for free.
Okay,
If
yes,
you just Google my name, or actually, if you just go to Amazon and put Antonio T. Smith Jr., it
yes.
will pop up. It will pop up, or you just type in Antonio T. Smith Jr. and keep walking. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. I can't even tell you. It's in stores that I didn't even know existed. So it's still out. It's still selling. It hit Amazon #1 maybe 40 different times. So I am grateful.
Wow, wow. That is great. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for sharing.
Thank
Ladies
you.
and gentlemen, in case you've just joined us, we've been talking about the great book which just came up this week, Antonio Smith Changed Our Lives. On this interview, been interviewing Deaunna Mitchell about her story and how Antonio changed her life. And we've had a special guest as well, Antonio himself, being able to talk with us, share his story, share the experience, and some of the tips that can help us move on in life.
Yeah,
So,
you caught me in the middle of doing push-ups. That's why my hair is all over the place. I was doing push-ups and stuff.
sorry, but definitely we loved your presence and we enjoyed being in the presence of your greatness.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes. So, Deanna, just in 1 minute, how would you sum Antonio? And I'll be asking the same question to Antonio. How would you sum up in 1 minute, Deanna? Yeah.
Fair enough.
In 1 minute, how do I sum up Antonio?
Yes.
Relentless, powerful, dominant, and he never gives up. When he believes in you, he never gives up on you. He won't even let you give up on yourself. He's he's an awesome. He's definitely awesome. That's for sure.
Uh, thank you. Thank you very much. And Antonio Ciotano.
Yeah, sure. If I had 1 minute to describe me, I'm a walking contradiction. I have no empathy, but I love people, and I believe we're all connected. I don't plan on doing any physical labor whatsoever, but I'm a hard working person that also did plenty of physical labor in the United States Army in the first half of my life. I absolutely love reading and I'm an intellect, yet I love to just listen to people and have them teach me things. I love what I do and I love the fact that I can help someone and bring out the highest expression of themselves. It's what I live for and it's also what I'm willing to die for.
And that's exactly what you've done for Diana. So, looking at maybe 10 or 28 on how many years you've known her, I guess she came to you as a, sorry to use this word, but I think possibly it's the best analogy I can think of at this moment in time as raw material. Okay.
Definitely.
So now saying more or less a finished product, you get a raw material. So what would you say or about her?
Yeah. Yeah, great. Yeah, she was definitely way off track when I met her. All 3 times, and then this last time. What I can say for sure is she hasn't even reached the surface of what she is. Right now, she
Really?
is the high. She is the highest expression of herself now. She doesn't have any more issues, and that highest expression of herself is just continually becoming more expressive. Every day, she wakes up more louder in who she is than she's ever been before, and I think that's awesome. And it's a team full of people like that around me. But definitely, since this is her interview, she gets louder and louder in herself every day.
Wow, and the journey of growth hasn't stopped yet. Uh,
No,
well,
no,
you're just halfway, not even halfway, I guess.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, ladies and gentlemen. And in case you've just joined us, I've been interviewing Deaunna Mitchell about her story, which appears in this book. Antonio Smith Change Our Lives, which you can get on Amazon. And we've as well had a privilege to have Antonio himself joining in and sharing some of the tips and ways he has helped people change their lives. Thank you very much and have a great evening in London and great afternoon in Houston, Texas.
See
Thank
you
you.
soon, London. See
Thank
you
Oh,
soon.
yes,
you.
we're waiting for you. Thank you. Bye. Bye bye.